Wasallam, and tell me whether we are following the sunnah or not. He said, Man ra'a munkaran falyughayyirhu biyadi. He said, if you see something which is wrong, which is evil, change it with your hand. فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِلِسَانِهِ. If you can't change it with your hand, he said, change it with your tongue. وَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِقَلْبِهِ. If you can't change it with your tongue, at least change it with your heart. What are we doing? Are we attempting to change it with our hands? Well, if not, are we speaking out against it? And if we're not speaking out against it, are we detesting it in our hearts? And if we are not even detesting it in our heart, and he said that is the weakest form of faith. That is the weakest one of all, to detest it in your heart. The overwhelming majority of the women of our community have abandoned hijab. We're not attempting to change it with the hand. We're not attempting to change it with the tongue. We're not even detesting it in the heart. Would you not agree that nothing now remains of Islam but the name? Allah has permitted in the Quran, and the Prophet ﷺ has permitted in his Sunnah, permitted a Muslim man to marry more than one wife. Does anyone want to challenge me and say I'm wrong? Come on, say it now. If I'm wrong, come and say it. He says in the Quran, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدَةً. If you fear that you will not be able to deal justly with your wives, then marry only one. But if you can deal with them justly, and if you have the means to maintain, then Allah has given you permission to marry up to 4. This is in the Quran. When I was a boy growing up, they taught me what is the definition of Islam in the CMYO. They said that the definition of Islam is submission to Allah. That is Islam. Submission to Allah. Well, submission to Allah means submission to the word of Allah, isn't it? Which means submission to the word of Allah in the Quran, isn't it? Yes. And when I went at the age of 21, 22 to Pakistan and became the student of Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, I remember it was October 1964. And we sat down for the first class with the Maulana. I think we may have been about a dozen students from about 6 different countries. And Maulana is teaching us the first class delivered in Alimia Institute of Islamic Studies. What is the lesson that he taught us? That lesson is before my eyes today as plain as the rain. He said, and of course it shocked me. It took some time for me to accept it. He said, when you know that it is the word of Allah, then whether you understand it or you don't, whether you're comfortable with it or you are not, when you know it is the word of Allah, submit to it. Understanding could come afterwards. You could come comfortable with it afterwards. But once you know it is the word of Allah, submit to it. If you don't submit, you're not a Muslim. Today, 999 out of every 1,000 women says, no, I can't accept that. Not my husband. Me, I'm prepared to share my husband with no other woman. No, no, no. It might be in the Quran, but I the Quran. I do not accept it. That is a state of brainwashing. Of course, this lecture is going to make me unpopular, but my duty is to try to please my Lord, not please the people. Someone has to speak it out. And I'm doing it tonight. This brainwashing of our Muslim women, where has it come from? It has come from that Christian Jewish world, the white world that is ruling the world today. Wherever the Christian Jewish world has not been able to influence our people and brainwash our people, our women don't behave like that. If you go to Afghanistan and see the Muslim women in Afghanistan. Go to many parts of Africa which have not as yet been touched by the white world order. And you'll see Muslim women who are not at all uncomfortable with plural marriages. Did the Prophet ﷺ shake hands with women? Come on, answer me. Did the Prophet ﷺ shake hands with women? No, he did not. No, he did not. We never did that in our history. Jazakallah. Men and women in Islam never shook hands. Never. Today, men and women in Islam are shaking hands. In Trinidad, they're worse than that. They're kissing. All over the place, they're kissing. Where did this come from? This came from the Christians and the Jews. When they started shaking hands, we follow them. As the Prophet prophesied, he said, even if they were to go down into the lizard's hole, you go down into the lizard's hole with them. And so we should not shake hands with women. Yes, they're going to feel offended, but it's better that they be offended than your Lord be offended. Allah put a beard on the face of the male. Did he? Yeah, I think he did it. Would you agree with me? That Allah put a beard on the face of the male? How are you so quiet? Why did he put a beard on the face of the male? So you can distinguish the male from the female from a distance, without having to look to any other part of the body. And men always wore their beards, always, all through history. It didn't matter which religion you belonged to, until when? Until the Jews and the Christians shaved it off. Which Jews and Christians? The one in the white world. And when they shaved it off, guess what happened? All of us shaved it off. Illa masha'Allah. And those who didn't shave it off, they kept an apology of a beard. The Prophet ﷺ followed instructions given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, permitting women to pray in the masjid. He said, do not prevent your women from coming to the masjid. A woman has a choice. She can either pray at home or she can pray in the masjid. You get the same blessings. But for a man, he gets 27 times more if he comes to the masjid than he prays at home. Listen to the hadith and tell me, what are you going to do with this hadith? If you say that you follow the sunnah, then tell me, what are you going to do with this hadith? He said, أحسن الصفوف للرجال أولها وشرها آخر